everybody. Welcome back to Odd and Untold. This is episode 4, and joining me this week is my buddy Josh Diaz. He runs a YouTube channel, Diaz Wilderness Adventures. And Josh, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jason. Pleasure.
Oh, yeah. Anytime. So for those of you guys who don't know, anybody listening, Josh and I have been camping together for, it was like 3 years now?
Yeah, I want to say we started camping together back in 2019.
Yeah, it's my Memorial Day weekend of
2019.
Yeah, so Josh and I met on a Facebook page, New York Camping Enthusiasts.
Yep.
And you had posted a video of yourself doing a solo camping trip, which is so badass, so hardcore. And,
right, yeah.
It's funny because everyone else on that page does like the campers and the RVs and which, all due respect, not my thing, but you were like the first person I had seen on there who did like the type of camping I wanted to do. It's like a tent and you're like deep in the woods. There's no family campgrounds. You're just kind of like away from civilization. And, you and your dog Jax, who I love. And, I just started, I messaged you and we started talking, and before you knew it, we had a trip planned and we went to Silver Lake Wilderness.
Yeah. I mean, we just, I think you had commented on on my post of my YouTube video and had mentioned how much you really wanted to try something like that. You didn't know, places up in the Adirondacks to go.
Right.
And I remember saying something along the lines of, if you ever do want to come up this way and you do actually travel out here, I'd be happy to meet with you and, show you some spots and maybe do an overnight or camp. And kind of took a chance, and you seemed like a really cool guy. And, we kind of clicked it off, we kind of hit it off right from the start. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And the rest is pretty much history.
The rest is history. Yeah. We've been on a bunch of trips since then. Yeah. So that, it was just, because, I'm from New York City. You're from, at the time you were living in Johnstown.
Yep.
And now you're in St. Johnsville, but, a good 3.5 hours away from where I am. And I'd never been up that far in the Adirondacks. But as someone who just loves the outdoors, loves camping, and loves Bigfoot and UFOs and all that type of spooky stuff, just getting real deep in the woods was something I always wanted to do. And I can't really get anybody to come glamping with me, just like right. Family campgrounds, like, eating out of the car, and the supermarket is 5 minutes away. So to get into the Adirondacks, like it was just a dream of mine. And I wouldn't have wanted to go alone. My wife would never let me go alone. Meeting up with you was I think scary enough for our family members, where they were just like, "You're meeting who? Or where?" And you're going into the woods with him. And,
right. Yeah.
So that was, and we just did like that first one overnight trip, and yeah, we just clicked and like fast friends, and great conversations, and around every campfire. I mean, you just always have talks, whether
absolutely,
it's, paranormal or politics or life in general. And
for sure,
I think it was one of the trips, Pali Paseco Road, where our friend Scott Perry came with us. And we were kind of talking like we should just record these conversations. We were just having these great talks. And at the time I was a long way from doing a podcast, but we were like, yeah, we should do like a podcast. So here we are.
Yeah, I think that's where you first mentioned it, wasn't it? You kind of like played around with the idea while we were around the campfire with Scott, or was it? Or was it a little bit later? I'm trying to remember.
I forget who mentioned it. It may have actually been Scott who mentioned it. Like, we should do a podcast. And then after the trip, I was thinking about it because we did have such a great conversation. And I was like, we should really we should consider doing this, because one, it's just so much fun to talk to people about this stuff, and just to have it recorded for posterity, and share our experiences or stories that we've heard. And I mean, it's always much cooler doing it around a campfire in the middle of the woods. It just adds that little bit of spookiness, and you kind of hear the creatures behind you, and the crickets and the owls, and just all the night sounds, and the crackling of the fire.
That campy kind of feel.
Yeah, definitely. So definitely, once I started this podcast, it's like, I got to get you guys on, and I'm hoping to get Scott on next week. I got to message him, but I know I've spoken to you guys sort of privately already, and you guys have both agreed. And
Mhm.
I do want to do like a round table with both of you guys, just because that was fun. Just the three of us sitting around the campfire that night talking. Um, so yeah, I definitely want to do that soon as well.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be
yeah.
great to get Scott on. He's a lot like you. He just is just so full of Bigfoot lore, and he's just so passionate about it. And I knew when I first met you, I was like, you got to meet Scott. He is like
Oh, I
he
remember.
is
Yeah,
he is just a Bigfoot fanatic. Lives, sleeps, breathes Bigfoot. And I thought you guys would hit it off real well. So I'm glad you guys
yeah,
got to
and
connect and get to hang out a little bit. So
yeah, definitely. And I think we were trying to get him to come up for our second trip, Cedar River Flow, and
yeah,
we couldn't. He just couldn't get the time, or I forget what was going. I think he had to work or something, so he couldn't join us
yeah,
for that one. But he was going to come like meet us for lunch. And
right.
remember, we were like trying to call him in the parking lot.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, so that would be great if we could do that at some point.
absolutely, absolutely.
Um, so yeah, just that's how we met, and we've been on. I don't even know how many trips now. We just got back from one. I mean, this is Tuesday, June 28th. We just got back like Sunday, the
Yeah,
26th,
yeah,
from Fawn Lake. We were with our friends Dan Nicotera and Dustin Lawana, and that was a great trip too.
for
Uh,
sure.
not as remote as you and I usually do, but still a lot of fun. I mean, beautiful scenery, gorgeous lake.
Right.
You guys caught some fish, which was
Oh,
cool.
absolutely. Yeah, the fishing
Yeah,
was great. Yeah, it was a great spot, and it was nice to go back there. I know you and I had went to that spot back in February, and
yep.
we have a video of that, and it was nice to kind of go back there during the summer. And we were talking about how this is probably a nicer place, in the summer. When we're there in February, there's just a lot of snow squalls and wet rain or wet snow, and
Oh
it
yeah,
was awesome. We had a great time, but at the same time, it was like, man, this would be really cool in the summertime with good weather. So I'm glad we got to go back there and check it out, because so far we've done quite a few trips, but we've never actually returned to a place where we've been in the previously.
yeah,
Whether
yeah.
yeah. So, and we've talked about it, on other trips. We've talked about, hey, we should come, like John Pond. We're like, we should go to John Pond, during the summer instead of January. So yeah, and it's great. I love the fact that you're willing to do 4 season camping.
Oh yeah,
And I know that's not for everybody.
no.
So it's nice that you're willing to do that and kind of adapt to the situations. We've had some ups and downs, but we've always had a great time, and we've survived the ordeals, survived the trips, and had stories to tell. So
Oh yeah, every
yeah,
trip's got a story, and
yeah,
um, yeah, because Fawn Lake in February, that was, I mean, it was what, about 2 feet of snow when we walked in, a
yeah.
foot
I
and a
mean,
half, 2 feet of snow, depending on the drifts. And
right.
I mean, it was still
Trail,
beautiful. I mean, just the lake was frozen over and the mountains in the distance.
yeah. And I think what made it tough too was, yeah, I mean, when you're doing winter camping with the snow and you get to a trail where the trail hasn't been broken in yet, it's just a big, slog to get to where you got to go.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
we were hoping we didn't have to use snowshoes for that trip. So, because it was so short of a trip, it was only about a half mile from the
Right,
parking
right.
area. So we were hoping we didn't have to use snowshoes, and we didn't for most of the walk in, but about half of it we probably should have had
Yeah,
snowshoes. We
yeah,
really had to break trail for a bit, and so that's the tough part. That's probably
yeah,
one of the
definitely.
hardest part about winter camping is getting there and getting through those tough trails, deep
Yeah,
snow.
definitely, definitely. But we were prepared this time. I was pretty warm at night.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for sure.
the only issue was the firewood. I mean, it was like no firewood because everything was under two
Yeah,
feet of snow.
exactly. And the temperature and the humidity, it was just there was so much
So
moisture in
damp.
the air
Yeah,
that it was like we really couldn't even get a fire going over like 5 inches high. It was just this
yeah,
tiny little fire, barely gave off any heat, and it was just like we had to constantly nurture it or it would just go out. So
hmm,
it was mainly headlamps that trip. So
yeah, yeah, definitely. So yeah, it was definitely cool to go back and just see it in its summer glory, and sunshine and blue skies and green trees, and
yeah,
so that was great. So I'm still a little tired from that. I'm
yeah,
still
yeah,
recovering a
me
little
too.
bit.
Yeah,
just
I'm still scratching mosquito bites and bug
oh
bites.
my God, yeah, I got them all over me.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Bites there, I got bites on this hand. My back, I showed you guys that picture of my back, which
Oh my God,
it never even itched me, but like I took my shirt off and I was gonna show my wife because I had like 3 mosquito bites on my shoulder here. And I went to show her these and she's like, holy shit. And I'm like, what? And she's like, your back. And I'm like, what about it? She's like, let me take a picture. And she's like, you got eaten alive. And I was like, I didn't even feel these. Like I was itchy everywhere else except my back, but the back was like a buffet for mosquitoes.
Yeah, like you had mosquito bites like within just right next to you. It was like a mosquito bite on top of a mosquito bite on top of a horsefly bite. Like it was just multiple bites, like all next to each other. They were just
I know Dustin had a few of those too. He was saying it was just like bites on top of bites, and that bug spray was doing nothing. We tried all different types and kinds and sprays and wipes and DEET and 100% DEET.
100% DEET.
100% DEET was not working.
Wasn't doing the trick. Yeah, I don't know what else to do. Long sleeves, I guess. I don't know. Bug nets.
Yeah.
But, you don't really want to wear all that in 90-degree heat. 80-degree heat. It's like
and we've suffered worse. The black flies at Silver Lake were worse.
Silver Lake was something else.
So I just wanted to talk to you about our trips and just because my main goal for these trips is really just to have fun. I just like getting out. I like camping. I like building fires. I like chopping wood. It's kind of my jam when we're up there. Secondary to that is always, and this is just anywhere in life, if I go into an old building, I'm curious about the ghost stories. If I'm out in the woods, I'm curious about Bigfoot or, looking at the night sky for UFOs. So, when I'm out there, and I've said this on the blog too, like we don't really do any Bigfoot hunting or UFO hunting or ghost hunting. Like we're not like out there to do this, we're just kind of out there to experience and have fun. And, of course we have our, our paranormal talks around the campfire at night sometimes, but it's not my main reason for going out there. It's really just to get away from everything, to rough it, to just experience, survival with lots of beer, but just to kind of get that little taste of what like really roughing it is like. And I, just being out there, and I was saying this to Seth Breedlove a couple of weeks ago, just that, if you spend enough time out in the woods, if you spend enough time just away from society, turn your phone off, get away from the hustle and bustle of traffic and subways and stuff, that, you spend time in the woods, you're gonna have some weird experiences. And I've had many over the years, not just in the Adirondacks, but just many experiences in the woods that were just a little weird. So I just wanted to talk about some of ours tonight. We haven't had many, but the main one I really wanted to talk about was our trip to Ross Pond, which was that 2 years ago now?
Yeah, I want to say it was 2 years.
That was like August. So 2 years ago.
Yeah. It was 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was when COVID. It was a COVID summer, I remember.
Yeah, it was like things had just broken, and it was nice to just kind of get outside, get outdoors, safe, keep our distance from each other a little bit, but get some fresh air and not have to worry about, being locked up in our homes. And so for anybody who doesn't know, Ross Pond is in the Hudson Gorge Wilderness in the Adirondacks. And it's a bit of a rough hike. It's supposed to be really good fishing on the lake. We caught nothing. Well, Josh caught nothing. I wasn't fishing. I would have caught even less. But, it was a place that we researched. We wanted to go real deep. And it was, I think, just under like a 3-mile hike into the site. And we researched it, and some guys online had said, it's a nice, easy hike. You take your fishing pole, your tackle box, take your lunch. It's great, like nice, easy 3-mile hike. And it wasn't. It was rock climbs and little streams and vines and up hills and down hills and rock scrags. And
and there was, we had, down trees across the trail. The trail wasn't really, where we were going, it really wasn't maintained too well. I mean, it wasn't like completely unkept, but it usually if there's a downed tree, I would assume that within a week or two, someone would come by and, someone from DC would come by, or maybe someone like a forest ranger or something would come with a chainsaw and kind of cut it out and throw it off trail. So I don't know how often that trail is maintained. It was a pretty decent trail as far as, it was well marked. I mean, we didn't lose the trail at any point. But, I mean, from the start, you had those, it was right off the road, kind of going down a hill, kind of hard to find. And then just kind of going off these little, like kind of platforms, wooden platforms, going over like swampy area. And then we knew where we were kind of heading into. And, uphill, downhill, like you said, streams, big spider webs across the trail. Nobody had been down this trail for a while. And it wasn't wasn't the longest trail, but some would argue that it's not a hard trail, but if they just, like you said, if they had a fishing pole and a tackle box and that's all they were carrying, then it's probably an easy trail for someone that's 20 years old. But for us guys that are in our mid 40s, late 40s, we with 50 pounds of gear on our backs, a German Shepherd pulling us along, cooler.
The cooler,
it makes it tough, and
and it was hot.
It was real hot.
Hot day, humid, and we were sweating and struggling, and I mean, if there were 2 consecutive feet of flat ground, that would have been a lot. Like it was just because some trails they change, but you get certain stretches where it's like, this isn't too bad, and then you go a little uphill, or then you kind of level out, and it's like, okay, this is a little bit of a turn, and it's a little tight, and then it levels out. Like this was just, there was no leveling out. It was just constant kind of up or down, or stepping over stuff, like you said, down trees or vines or
and there's just a lot of rocks. I mean, for me, it was just my ankles were kind of just kind of hurt after that trip, just because there's just a lot of rocks, a lot of like wet, slippery rocks, and just kind of strewn around in a lot of different areas. That just kind of made it kind of tough to walk on, But
definitely.
Yeah, and then to add insult to injury, we get to the last part of where we got to get to, the last, say, 250 yards to get to the campsite. It's just going down this hill. You have to walk sideways on the trail because it's just so steep, and you obviously can't go straight down it, or you're just going to tumble down the side of the hill. You got to walk sideways to kind of get down to where you got to get to, and then there's a massive pine tree that just fell over the trail. So then you have to kind of, and that's something you encounter a lot in the Adirondacks, is you have these down trees, or you have these massive mud puddles, and you can walk straight through them. They say walk straight through them, and I do when I can. Sometimes I'm just not in the mood, and I'll just walk around it, try to be as careful as possible. But they generally say walk through it then instead of around it, because you start eating up the trail and kind of eating up the natural habitat there, kind of making the trail bigger than it needs to be. But sometimes you got a massive pine tree that fell across the trail. What are you going to do? So you really do have to go around these things. And, we had that at the last end of the trail, had to go around that tree, climb back up to the trail, and going back down rocky, then getting to the last part of where our campsite was. And I called it Kilimanjaro, because there was this huge steep rock to go up. And we were just exhausted at that point. And my dog couldn't even make it up. He just went about halfway, started whimpering, and came back down. He's a big, strong German Shepherd, and he was just winded. So I had to carry him up that last kind of rock scramble there. And once we got to the campsite, it was gorgeous.
It's beautiful.
Plateau, little area.
Nice view of the lake.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So that was a great trip. Yeah, I got skunked on the fish. I probably wasn't using the right lures. I know I got one snagged in the weeds, and actually I only brought one spinnerbait with me, and it got snagged in the weeds and broke off. And the rest I had was power bait, so I didn't bring any worms for the trout. I know there's native trout in there. Oh no, maybe not native trout. I think it's stock. But either way, I didn't catch anything. So.
Yeah, we didn't catch anything.
So.
Further insult to injury, we ditched the cooler about halfway along the trail, and then once we got to camp, we knew we had to go back to get the cooler, which had a ton of beer and water in it. Like, it was just heavy as hell. It was on wheels, but it's still just heavy as hell. And as soon as we got to the camp, like a big storm was rolling in. So we had to get the tents and the tarps up and everything just to, if we had to duck inside. And of course it barely rained. But we got everything up and ready to go, and then had to backtrack to get the cooler.
Right.
A mile and a half or so.
Yeah, it was about a mile and a half.
Mile and a half. Yeah. So run back, get the cooler, and then drag that back to camp. So it was a rough trip. I remember once we got back, we kicked back. We had some cold beers, some water. We cooked up some food, and we were probably in bed by like 8 o'clock that first night.
Yeah,
like,
we were
just exhausted.
We were just too sleepy.
Yeah.
That first beer tasted great because we made it a point not to have our first beer until we were done with everything, like set up,
right.
Getting the going back and getting the cooler. Well, we couldn't have a beer anyway because the cooler was all the way a mile back. So, so we had to bring that in. And once we had that all set up, that was probably the nicest feeling, was just to sit in front of the lake and or in front of the pond and on our chairs and just drink that first beer. Always one of the best feelings on our trips is just that first beer when we sit down and just take in the view.
It's tradition now. It's just
exactly.
Once camp is fully set up and we can relax, that's when we reward ourselves with the first beer.
Right. Exactly.
So this trip was interesting because we were really deep. This was probably the deepest we've ever gone. I think it's the only trip where we never came across anyone else. Even like John Pond in like late January, people were like hiking, snowshoeing through our camp. Cedar River Flow, people were on the Northfield Placid Trail there. Every single trip we've run into somebody. This trip, it was basically like, 20 feet into the trail, there were some people and they were going off to the falls.
Right.
And they kind of commented on our cooler, but but after that, we didn't see a single soul. Like we were deep in there, which was nice. I mean, I have to admit it was nice, but it was also the only trip you didn't take your gun.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we had jacks and we just had too much gear. And we were like, we'll be fine. We got the dog with us.
Right.
So no gun. Usually you bring a gun or two.
I bring sometimes I'll bring a gun along for target shooting. Like I think John Pond, I think I brought my 22 and my 410 shotgun. Just to kind of play around and target shoot. I don't even think we shot the 22, so it's just a waste. It's just just added weight to drag along. But I did shoot the 410. I bought a little Rossi 410. It's called a Rossi Tuffy. It's really just a kid's gun, but it was small enough to just stuff in my backpack. 410 really isn't going to protect you from much. It probably won't kill a bear. I mean, hopefully you never have to use it because I don't want to test the capabilities. I don't want to find out if it can kill a bear or not. Anyway, but it's good to have something. Right. And it's not necessarily, for me, it's not necessarily the animals. You never know who you'll find out there. There's some crazy there's some crazy humans. Usually the animals leave you alone, but you might run into somebody out there and, you're 2 hours in the middle of nowhere, nobody around, and, somebody might just decide to mess with you. And what are you going to do?
Exactly.
Exactly. Be self-reliant. So.
Yeah. No, I don't think anybody would blame you. I mean, anybody I talk to says, regardless of the time of year, regardless of the type of animals are out there, bring a sidearm, bring a firearm, because it's the people you got to worry about. That's more so than the animals usually. Bears the worst thing you got to worry about up there, and usually you yell at them and they run off. Right. Which we'll get into shortly, but
and it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, which we'll get into. Which we'll
get into. So back to Ross Pond. We didn't have a gun with us. First night we're in bed early because it wasn't raining, but it was very windy that night. I remember it was just kind of like whipping the tarps around, and we were just so exhausted. I mean, we were just like heat exhausted, like we were just overheated. It was just a long walk for us. Again, guys who were, desk jockeys, basically. We sit at a desk at work and we're on emails and on the phone. I know I am anyway. I don't move around much during the day. So, and at the time I was 46 because I'm 48 now. But, it's just to do a hike like that, like you said, carrying 50, 60 pounds on your back, carrying a cooler on rough terrain for 3 miles, and then back a mile and a half, so it was like 6 miles in one day of just rough terrain, carrying lots of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, we had a nice meal, and then we kind of laid in our tents and we're just talking, and passed out pretty early. So the first night was uneventful. Second day was great. We had beautiful weather. I just remember the video that we have. I think it's up on your channel. Of just you fishing, and just the lake was just beautiful. The pond rather, it was beautiful. The scenery is beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, not a soul around. Like, it was just you wouldn't know anybody else was on Earth. It's kind of
right. Yeah.
Cool.
We really were. We really were alone. Yeah. I mean, it was nobody. Yeah, nobody near us at all. Yeah, that was remote.
Yeah, I think we saw maybe one plane really high overhead go past at one point.
Right.
But other than that, like, the world could have ended, and we never would have known. We've just been chugging our beers and sitting by the water.
Yeah. But what amazes me though is we get to some of these remote areas, and you'll find this big heavy aluminum rowboat that some crazy person or a group of people decided it would be a cool idea to lug that big heavy rowboat, aluminum, that's got to weigh like 200 pounds, through the woods and up those hills and over the rocks and over the meadows, and it's just
because there was a big rowboat there, right?
Yeah, there was a big rowboat. Yeah. We couldn't find the oars. Sometimes,
right.
What a lot of people do is they'll hide canoes or rowboats there, and they'll bring in the oars, when they come in.
Right.
So a lot of locals do that. Yeah. If they're going to just do a day trip, they'll go out there and they'll say, hey, anybody can use it, but you're not going to go too far with it. You're not going to steal it.
Right.
What are you going to do with it? You're going to hike it back, 3 miles back to the parking lot, and bring up a banged up, beaten rowboat. If you do so happen to have some oars and you bring it out, they're generally okay if you use it, and just paddle out there and have fun and fish. Do what you want to do.
Right.
But it always amazed me to see how remote people will go to get a boat out there.
Yeah, especially these big heavy ones. It's just I can't imagine. What the hell that would have been, bring that rowboat out there. Yeah, definitely.
Just agony.
So the second night, this is where the interesting stuff happens. I forget what time it was. I'm thinking it was maybe 8:30ish. I remember it wasn't too late in the evening, because I remember after this happened, we were like, we got a lot of night left after this. But it was probably like 8:15, 8:30, 8:45. It was definitely before 9.
Yeah.
But I remember we like finished dinner. We had like fire going. We're sitting there with Jax, and we're just talking, and Jax hears something big coming into camp. And our backs are to the water, so our tents are behind us by the water, and we have the fire pit in front of us, and we're just kind of looking into the woods, and then there's like a mountain,
right,
big hill, beyond, and Jax is looking over to the right, and you and I heard it too. I mean, it was clearly big. Right. It's not trying to be subtle or anything, and it just kind of comes in, and Jax sits up, and he's at attention, and he's looking at it and kind of watching it come in, and it kind of stops right in front of us. And you saw some eye shine, right?
Yeah, that's I think what we first heard was a big snap of a large branch.
Right.
Something had stepped on something and just made this big crack sound. Maybe 50 yards out, and I think that's where we first noticed it. Jack's ears perked up.
Right.
He's looking off, into the darkness. Our camp, our campfire and our headlamps are only giving us a certain amount of visibility. Maybe 20 yards at best, 25 yards, 30 yards, and just pretty much it can just get the top half of that little hill we were on, where we had our tent set up.
Right.
And where we were looking at, where this creature was coming from, was kind of on the crest of the edge of the hill. So if you think about it, the the campsite was on top of this little hill. It went out about maybe 30, 40 yards in kind of like a circular direction, maybe more depending on, on where you're standing. But then it kind of dipped down into a steep area and went down to it went down to where it leveled out and was regular forest again. And down that kind of ravine, there was kind of like a swampy. It looked like there was maybe a stream that had dried up. And when we had, and I'll get back to the eyes in a minute, but when we had gotten there, one of the first things we did was kind of look around and a place to, hang our food and stuff like that. And we had found our bear hang farther, we hang our food in a bear hang, we tie it up, throw it over a tree branch and hang it, 20 feet up in the air. And so we found our bear hang, going down that hill. And as we went down that hill, there was kind of almost a dry stream bed, but towards the end of it, there was just mud and stuff like that. And we saw all kinds of footprints there. So it looked like it was a well-worn kind of animal trail. Looking back at the footage later on when we got back, I recognized the moose track. There was definitely deer tracks. There was, coyote, but there was just a gambit of animals that were just kind of going through that spot where the water kind of where the small stream kind of opened up and they could just drink. So it was a game trail for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And when we heard this animal, whatever it was coming through, it was coming along the ridge that goes down to that game trail. It must have been maybe about I don't know. I'm trying to think. Maybe 30 yards, 40 yards from the campsite. And I looked into the darkness and I saw eye shine. I saw amber eye shine, and I saw whatever it was. It was about eye level with me, and it looked.
Yeah, you're a big guy. What are you, 6 foot?
I'm 6 foot. Yeah. So we're standing straight up, and I'm standing straight up, and it was eye level with me. So I saw the amber eye shine. I saw the eyes close. I assume it either looked away or kind of looked in another direction, which is why the eye shine disappeared for a second. And then I saw it come again, and it was like blinking as well. So I'm seeing this. I'm knowing it's some kind of animal. I'm not familiar with the type of eye shine that bears have. I assumed it was probably a bear. It didn't seem like it was at all afraid of us. And a black bear, an Adirondack black bear, is like jet black. It's black as midnight. So I can see where if it was a bear, it would be very difficult to see in the darkness, in the shadows. It'd be tough to see. So I saw that. Jax was looking the exact direction I was. I knew that we had coordinated our eyesight on this animal, and so at that point, I thought we had a bear was going to come into camp. We yelled at it a couple times. Didn't seem like we wanted to go anywhere. We didn't have the gun on us. So
yeah, exactly.
So at that point, I got a little nervous, and I said, "Okay, Jason, let's kind of get back to back." We had a couple sticks that we had we were using as pokers in the fire. These kind of like longer sticks that I think we had even sharpened some of them off during the day.
We did, I think, for the day before for the storm, we were kind of propping up the tarps over our tents. So we kind of sharpened the ends of them to go into the grommets on the tarps.
Yes, that's what
to kind of hold them up.
Yeah,
and we didn't need them the second day because the weather was beautiful. And we grabbed the sticks and we're like grabbing our knives.
Right.
And I remember both of us are just yelling at this thing loud, and it's just stood there staring at us. And the thing that struck me, you were telling me that the eyes were by a certain tree, kind of shining your light on the tree.
Right. Yeah, I saw the tree. I could see the tree. That was the thing. I knew where I was standing, and I could see that there was a tree that was closer to us as well. So I could kind of line it up with that tree. There's a few other trees, so I knew in the vicinity of exactly where his eye shine was coming from, and it was by this one big tall tree. And I remembered it in the morning as well. So I had a real good visual of where he was for certain.
Yeah. And and again, the thing that freaked me out at the time is that you're telling me where this thing is, and I'm like, it's eye level with you, so about 6 feet tall. But I remembered that there was that drop right at the edge of the campsite, and all the trees are kind of in that drop. So like, well, if
Right.
he's behind that tree and peeking out,
Yeah.
is he 6 feet or is he 8 feet? So that became, and this is all going through my mind as we're like yelling at this thing. And I'm like, are we going to die? Like, because this bear is not running off, and we're 3 miles from not even civilization. We're just 3 miles from our car, and then I don't, how much of a drive would it have been after that, and I'm just like, we are out here alone. We have no guns, no cell service, it was scary. And I'm just like, is this thing 6 feet tall? Is it 8 feet tall?
Well, I mean, we didn't come to that. We didn't come to the, it didn't really click until the next morning,
right.
When we had saw it that night, we're just thinking, it's 6 feet tall. And, I'm thinking to myself, okay, Adirondack black bear standing up on its hind legs, it could fit that bill for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I'm thinking it was just a bear, and eventually it just kind of went off and went kind of down that ravine. And I heard it kind of going more towards that, kind of towards the, towards that game trail.
Yeah.
And then we didn't hear it for the rest of the night, but, obviously we're kind of shook up about it. We had a long time to go before we ended up going to bed.
Yeah.
But, so we just talked to each other and just, eventually we just fell asleep, but at probably 1 o'clock. So I think we talked for about 4 hours. I don't even remember what we talked about, but it's pretty much everything just to stay awake, just to make sure that it wasn't in the area. I think the idea was we didn't want to go to sleep unless we were sure that it had really
moved on. Yeah.
Skedaddled. Yeah. And, it wasn't really until the next morning that you had made the comment about, I think we were eating breakfast and kind of getting ready to go. And you had made the comment about, where'd you see that bear? Or where'd you see the eyes? And I said, right here. And I said, there's the exact tree. I was looking at it. And there was, I think there was maybe like a knot on the tree. There was something on the tree. And that was like, from my vantage point, during the daylight, I could see that one spot where that was, that's where I saw the eyes.
Yeah.
And that was eye level with me. But you were like, oh, that's odd. Because
if I stood next to the tree, I had to put my hand up, like this tall to kind of reach that knot. So then I'm like, well, if it was standing right here, then you're not talking about 6 feet, you talk about 8 feet. And now you're getting into like, maybe it wasn't a black bear, maybe it was a moose, or maybe it was Bigfoot, and then we had the bright idea to go over to the muddy area and look for prints. And I'm going to do a screen share now for just anybody who's watching on YouTube. If you're listening on podcast, you can go to the website. I'll put a link. You can go to oddanduntold.com and search for Bigfoot hunting in the Adirondacks Part 3, and you'll see it. But I'm gonna pull this up for us right now, just so we can. Where did it go? Did I close it? Hold on one sec, bro. I just got to open it again. We found this. This is just you can see the shape of it. You can see my boot there on a size 12, clearly bigger than a size 12. So we found this the next morning, and we got real excited because I mean, anybody looking at this, I mean, we were texting. We got back to the car. We were texting our wives. I was texting my dad.
Yeah,
we found like.
I couldn't believe it. I just could not believe it when I saw it. I said, this is no way. And it just like, it was like, I don't know, it was almost like being in a dream, and I'm just like, wow, seriously? I'm like, is that what I think it is? And yeah, that was quite a moment, I'll tell you.
Because it just looks like a giant human footprint. And you can't really see it in this photo here, but as we were looking at it, you could see kind of almost toes over here, at the front of it. So we were real excited to find this. Sadly, we had to get out of there. Another storm was coming in.
Mm-hmm.
It was getting late in the morning. We knew we had a long hike out, and I know we wanted to stay and take more pictures and more video, and just we wanted to like look back on our old video and just see what if it was there the day before, because like you said, we had gone down there. I think we were taking pictures of some of the tracks and some video of like the deer tracks, and I know there were some bear tracks in there. So we were just like, we got to go. I had no plaster with me. I couldn't cast it, so I took the best photos and video I could, and then we skedaddled out of there. And as soon as we threw the packs on our backs, it started pouring, and it just rained the entire time back to the car. We were
that
probably
was
borderline hypothermic by the time we got back. I remember I was starting to shiver.
I was freezing. And this was August, late
August? It was late August.
It
may have even been like Labor Day weekend. It may have been like late August into September, but it was, I remember that day, it was a lot cooler that day. And the rain was just so cold, and we were just drenched to our skin, like we were just not prepared. We didn't have ponchos with us. It was just a trip we didn't really prepare well for.
And I actually had a concern about potentially getting hypothermic if we didn't get back in time, or slightly hypothermic. And I think that you can get hypothermic in the middle of summer depending on certain conditions in the wilderness.
Absolutely.
You get in these freak Adirondack storms where you have this, torrential downpour. And I'm not talking, this rain here was torrential. You could barely see. Like if you were driving in it, it would be that type of rain where your windshield wipers are going like this and you still can barely see. It was just raining cats and dogs. And then the wind was just howling, and you would think that the trees would give you some cover from some of that. It just didn't. And I remember I was shivering. I was freezing. And it's good. It's a good thing to shiver because that kind of generates warmth. But at the same time, I thought, boy, how I'm glad we don't have much farther to go, because had this been an 8-mile hike, we might have to kind of pull over and find some way to warm up. And
we would have been in trouble for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Because like I said, by the time we got back to the car, I was really shivering, and I was like, I'm freezing. It's August.
Yeah.
And I'm freezing. 2 days ago I was sweating. I couldn't drink enough water. I was so hot. I was so overheated. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize about like the real wilderness, you get outside the big city, like the temperatures can fluctuate so much from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. You can go from 95 degrees to 55 degrees or 45 degrees in a single day, within 12 hours. And you throw rain into that mix. It could be scary.
And it's not unheard of. It's not unheard of to have tornadoes in the Adirondacks. It's, real strong winds that just blow down trees. We've seen so much blowdown on the trails, it happens all the time. So, any of those storms can generate, that kind of weather condition that can make it kind of very dangerous. And, you get stuck in it from time to time. You plan as much as you want, but you can never really predict the weather. So.
Right. Yeah. That's especially true of the Adirondacks. It's just,
absolutely.
The weather's a very vague guide that, more for temperature than for like rain or anything, because how many times have we it's going to be sunny the whole trip and then it rains the whole time, or 5% chance of rain at noon and then it just rains for like 8 hours, thunderstorms and lightning. So that was spooky. And then we had this footprint that looks like the classic Bigfoot footprint, and we're really excited the whole way home. I remember just I tell everybody this, I'm kind of like a skeptical believer. I think you'd probably maybe put yourself in that same camp where you just kind of like, you think there's something to the stories, but for the most part, we always try to apply logic and Occam's razor, and just, the simplest explanation is the best one. But finding that footprint, that kind of blew my mind, because then I'm like, holy shit, did I actually find a Bigfoot footprint without even looking for Bigfoot? We're sitting around the freaking campfire, we're just, eating our hot dogs and, having our talks about whatever we talk about. And then this happens, and then clarity comes the next day when we get home and we review the footage. And it turns out that the print, let me bring it up again. Why does it keep, there we go. So basically what had happened was the front part here, we checked on video, looked like a pre-existing bear print. And then I stepped in it our first day there because I was being careless and just not thinking about preserving footprints or anything. But we have it on video where I step here. So this back part is my boot going into a pre-existing bear print, which is why it looked like there were toes. They were just the pads of the bear's
Right.
paw. So it was a good bit of debunking on our part to just, and I'm glad we were able to do that, to just realize that, no, this is not Bigfoot. This is Big Dummy stepping me, the big dummy stepping in a bear print.
Right. Curious. Do you have a screenshot of the footprint prior to you stepping on it?
No, I don't. Not handy. It's in a video I made. I'll link to that as well. I actually think it's on. If I scroll down, there's the footprint, and there it is. So yeah, I did have it. Thank you for reminding me. The existing footprint right before I stepped in it. It's a little hard to see here, but you can see the footprint, and there's a video which I think you were actually taking. Here's our different videos. But you actually had a video. You were filming me, and you weren't really focused on it. But if you look at my foot, you can see the print right next to that little log, and my boot goes right in it, and it creates this larger footprint that looks like a big footprint. So kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit. But at the same time, I prefer knowing the truth, even if it's not nearly as exciting as what it could have been,
Yeah.
So I'd rather know that it was me and not live my whole life being like, I got a Bigfoot footprint.
Yeah.
And it was really just me.
Yeah. I think that's an important thing, in any kind of thing that you do, whether it's paranormal investigation or whatever it might be, to have just integrity as far as, as far as your methodology and how you go about determining or making a conclusion, and just looking at the evidence, and just, doing the best you can to just arrive at truth as best as we can know it, and I think, we succeeded with that. So even though it didn't come up with results we wanted, at the end of the day, we want truth. So I think that was my big takeaway. As disappointed as I was so hoping that was a Bigfoot footprint, but I'm glad you were able to debunk it and, kind of, show how you determine that. So that was a cool experience for me personally.
Yeah, me too, because it's always good to be able to debunk stuff. And like I said, it's not the fun outcome. Everybody wants to be like, oh my God, we caught proof of a ghost, or that light in the sky I filmed was a real alien craft from another solar system, or that this thing I saw in the woods was Bigfoot. And that's great, and that's the fun outcome. That's the exciting outcome. That's the one that's going to give you the story to tell your kids forever and your grandkids. But if it's not the truth, I don't want it. And so for me, I would rather spend a week trying to debunk it than a lifetime telling a fake story. I'd rather just find the truth and say, okay, this is not a Bigfoot footprint.
For sure.
And I think it's a learning moment, from a couple of different points of view, just how things in the woods can deceive you.
Sure.
You can, because that could have been someone else's boot print from prior to us stepping in it. It could have been the bear's back paw stepping in its front paw print, which happens sometimes, and it creates this large print. So, the one lesson is just, don't just blindly believe it. Don't just see it and say, and accept it at face value and say, this is a Bigfoot print because it looks like a Bigfoot print. And again, I'm as skeptical as they come and as disillusioned as they come. And, whenever I see something like that, if people send me video of orbs or UFOs, and it happens a lot, and I'll debunk it for them. I'll say, well, no, this is clearly like dust, floating in front of the camera, and the light from, is reflecting, and they're like, no, screw you, you don't know what you're talking about. These are people who just want confirmation of what they already believe. They're not looking for the truth.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas
yeah.
guys like you and I, like, we're looking for the truth. We want to know, even if it's a disappointing finding, like that's fine with me, because
for sure.
I'd rather know for sure. And not to rain on anyone's parade, because the creature that came into our camp could have been a Bigfoot. We didn't see it. I don't know.
Right.
Just because that footprint was fake doesn't mean that this creature wasn't 8 feet tall. If it was 8 feet tall, it's not a black bear.
Right.
The other possibility would have been a moose. And I did some research on that. And again, not that it's impossible, but everything I read about moose said that they don't like walking around at night because their vision is very similar to a human being's vision. So imagine a human trying to walk through the darkened woods of the Adirondacks at night without a headlamp or a flashlight. They're not going to do very well. They're going to stumble, they're going to trip, they're going to bump into things. Whereas bears have that much better night vision. They can just walk around at night.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So, in all likelihood, it was a bear. It could have been us just misjudging where it was. Again, it's hard to tell distance at night. Right. It's hard to tell. You're seeing eye shine. It's near this tree, but is it right next to the tree? Is it a little bit in front of the tree? Is it a little bit behind the tree? So
sure.
If it's right next to the tree, it was 8 feet tall. If it was a foot or two behind the tree, it's 9 or 10 feet tall. But if it's 2 feet in front of the tree, now it's back to 6 feet tall. So it could have been a bear. So I think it's an interesting story. I think, a few of the things that bother me about it is that it didn't run off and it wasn't scared of us. There was 2 big adult dudes and a giant German Shepherd. And we were yelling at this thing. We were shaking our sticks. And he stood there for a good 5 or 6 minutes. I mean, he did not move for a while. He was just kind of looking at us. And so that's a little uncharacteristic of Adirondack black bears. Again, not impossible, but just one of those things that we noted. The other thing was we kind of, that night, because we were leaving the next morning, we had a little bit of food left. So we were like, let's just leave the cooler of food way out of camp, but along that path that he would have come in on. So we did that, and the cooler was untouched the next morning. I mean, we had, we had like those cheese-filled sausages, we had eggs, we had cheese slices, we had bagels, like we had like real tasty stuff in there that a bear should have gone for. And it was undisturbed. So it just, and again, it doesn't exclude a bear. It's one of those things that'll always, I'm 99.999% sure it was a bear, but there's always gonna be that little lingering bit of doubt because it was big.
Right.
It didn't run off when we tried to yell at it, and it did go for the food. And I'm just, it makes me very, very curious. But in all likelihood, a bear. But,
and like you said, I mean, that is odd behavior. It's not unheard of. I mean, there are times where bears will come into camps. People are yelling at them, and they just don't even care. They go into someone's car. They break open the car door, and they go and they start eating out of your cooler, or they hit up your picnic table, and you're yelling at them, get out of here, and they don't go. Some of them are really more on the, I don't want to say domesticated, but they're more used to being around humans and kind of, going through human garbage and that kind of thing. Right. So they're not really afraid of humans. We were pretty remote. So, I mean, I don't know. It's more unlikely that it was a domesticated type bear. Right. Or one that was more used to humans. Generally, they'll just run off. You yell at them, you bang a few pots, and they just run off once they know that they're there. So it was odd that he didn't even go for the food. There was no didn't seem at all afraid. So that was bizarre. And did you get a chance to look up bear eye shine? Do they actually have amber eye shine?
They do.
They do. Okay.
Right. So that's another thing that puts it kind of in the possible bear category. And the thing is with Bigfoot, people report all sorts of eye shine. They've reported yellow, they've reported orange. There's actually a Bigfoot, I forget where it's from off the top of my head, but it's called Old Orange Eyes. I think it may be New Jersey, but they call it Old Orange Eyes, which is like an amber color. And some people report red eyes, so with Bigfoot sightings. So it's one of those things where, again, in all likelihood, a bear. I mean, it's the simplest explanation. At the time, though, it was near this tree. It had to be bigger than 6 feet. Then we find this footprint, and I think it shows how sometimes some misperceptions or some faulty evidence can lead you down a path that's perhaps not correct. Right. And we got a little excited, and either way, it was a cool experience. Again, I could still not say I've seen Bigfoot or encountered Bigfoot. Because we didn't see it. If I had seen the creature and we could see that it had arms and an ape-like face, then we could say, no, this was not a bear. But we didn't really see, aside from the eye shine and the sounds, we didn't really see anything. So the search continues.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Question. Mm-hmm. I know there's been, reports of just increased sightings of Bigfoot in the Adirondacks. I know you and Seth were talking about that a week ago, and I know there was a Whitehall, monster. And with the Whitehall monster, what was the report of the eye shine on that? I want to say that was red eyes, wasn't it? I remember correctly.
I believe so. I have to, again, after you read so many of these stories, you start losing track of which was which.
Right.
But yeah, I believe there was some eye shine with that.
The reason why I asked this question is because I'm trying to, let's just go with a theory. Let's say it was a Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. Out of the reported stories, what's the kind of what's the consensus on the eye shine? If there's what's the range? If there's specifically for the Adirondacks, I'm not talking about any other area. Let's just assume that eye shine is something specific to a certain region of the U.S. But what are the reported eye shine?
It's usually red. I think the second most common would probably be like an orange or an amber, which again right there tells me it's probably a known animal. It's probably not Bigfoot that people are seeing when they're reporting this orange or amber eye shine. It's probably a bear or a moose or some other known animal. The red eyes, that is a little bit more interesting to me. And I think that is probably the most common reported is the red eyes on a Bigfoot. And again, if you listen to a lot of these stories, some people will say it's eye shine and some people will call it a glow. And there's a difference between the shine and the glow. Shine is clearly it's almost like a reflector. It's shining, as the name implies. But some people say, no, its eyes were glowing red, like almost as if emitting a red light. So that's another side of the Bigfoot phenomenon that's just a little weird to me, because if Bigfoot exists and it's nocturnal, you would expect an eye shine because most nocturnal animals have eye shine. That's how they see at night. Deer have eye shine, rabbits have eye shine, bears have it. So Bigfoot would naturally have it if it existed and it was a real animal. But you hear a lot of the red eye shine, and I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I have to look into that. I don't know if anybody's ever sort of done a study to sort of categorize like the eye shine by region. That would be an interesting thing to look into.
Right. Yeah.
Because usually they go by like fur color or height or things of that nature, but I don't really see a lot of categorization by eye shine or eye color.
Right. Which is interesting because that's something that seems to be more reported more often. At least from my experience. I mean, it may not be as often as I might think it may be, but it's interesting to me that the Whitehall monster creature had that red eye shine, and that's not too far really from where we were at.
Right.
Right. That's I don't know. I'd have to look at a map, but it's definitely within 50 miles to 100 miles of where we're at.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably less than I'd say more towards 50 to 60.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure what the proposed range is for a Bigfoot, or what people think their kind of stomping grounds are, but I would assume it would be pretty big. I'd assume it'd at least be what a bear's is.
Yeah, definitely.
If I remember correctly, and I may be wrong, I want to say a bear wanders for like 10 miles, like a circumference of 10 miles, maybe even more, but it's a large range.
Right. And, it's one of those things where people can only estimate,
Right.
You go off by what bears do, what gorillas do, what other large mammals do, but no one knows if Bigfoot actually exists. So it's tough to sort of say what their territorial range is or what their migratory patterns are.
Right.
But it's not out of the realm of possibility to, if these things live for decades and they're huge and they're constantly on the move, they could easily go from Whitehall to where we were.
Sure.
In a matter of days, probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, really interesting. And I just wanted to, talk to you more in depth about that story and get your take, because for me, it was a really interesting experience, and still not sure what to make of it. Again, probably a bear, but there's always that little niggling thing in the back of my mind, like, what if it wasn't?
Right.
Like, what if we did
Absolutely.
experience something, we just don't even know it?
Right.
And that's fun. It's fun to think about, but again, the scientific skeptical side of me says we just saw a bear, just ran into a bear. So
yeah, more than likely.
Yeah, definitely. So this was awesome, dude.
For sure.
Definitely want to have you on again. Before I let you go, have you had any other weird things happen to the Adirondacks without me?
On my own, besides the one we recently have, and maybe I'll save that because you might want that for another podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I want to see if Dustin will come on. Do you think he'd come on?
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, I think he'd be down for that for sure. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, I'd like to talk to him because you guys saw a little bit more than I did.
Right. Yeah, that was interesting.
I did see it, but you saw probably the more interesting part of it.
Yes. Yeah.
And I missed that, so I would definitely want to talk to both of you guys.
Right.
I don't want to give too much away in this episode.
Yeah,
but,
right, exactly.
Yeah, but there's something right on this past trip that happened. And
right.
Again, we weren't planning it. It wasn't something we were looking for, but there it was.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry to interrupt. But
no, that's fine. No, I haven't really run into anything in the wilderness that I've found anything that I would consider paranormal. I've heard bears outside my tent. Mm-hmm. I've heard, coyotes, raccoons, just a gambit of animals, squirrels, mice, everything, all the things that go bump in the night that, they just kind of wake you up from your sleep. And
right.
It kind of makes you have like a real uneasy sleep. Even now to this day, I can't sleep a full night. I'm up every 20 minutes, at every noise. And it's not necessarily paranoia. It's more, the noises wake me up, and I do like to be safe when I'm out there.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to run into something that, I don't want to wake up and have a bear chewing on me, you know what I mean? Or something like that happening, or a pack of coyotes, tearing apart my tent. So I always try to just assume the worst, be prepared, but assume the worst, and just kind of, I guess maybe that is some degree of paranoia, but I just want to be prepared, so I think it's important to just realize that when you're out in the wilderness, that it is a place where you can easily get injured or hurt, and
right.
You got to take precautions, and you got to use a heightened sensitivity when you're out there. You can't just assume that you're going to walk out there and everything's going to be fine.
Right.
A wind could come and a tree could fall on you. I mean, there's so many different random crazy things that could happen out there that you really do have to be on your guard and, enjoy yourself, obviously, but be wise about it and smart about it, and take the right precautions. Prepare and make sure that you have all the gear that you need. That's very important. But as far as anything paranormal, I haven't had anything that I would consider out of the ordinary that I can think of. Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Nature needs to be respected, and you really do have to sleep with one ear open when you're out there, because you just don't want to be caught unawares. You're not safe. I mean, it's not dangerous, but you can't just assume that everything's going to be fine. You got to, like I said, better safe than sorry. Just,
Yeah.
And the one thing that always strikes me is, like, when you're in your tent, the sounds just are deceiving, like, because even just this past trip, like Sunday morning, I woke up and Dan was up early. His hammock was right near my tent, and he was walking around, and it just, at one moment it sounded like he was 50 yards away, and then 2 steps later he was like brushing up against my tent practically. And it's just the sounds out there can get so deceiving. So you really need to pay attention when you're sleeping out there and just doing anything out there, just because you don't want anything creeping up on you.
Absolutely. And I think, you'll run into some guys, like, I'm sure if you were to go on some of these Facebook groups and we were to kind of describe kind of our, what we're just talking about now, some people would think, oh, you're just being paranoid. I've been out in the Adirondack for 50 years, and I've never seen anything, or nothing's happened, and, it's safe. And, well, they probably won't say it's 100% safe, but, they might think we're being a little overly cautious. But I like to err on the side of caution. I think it's better to have that kind of a mindset going into the wilderness, as opposed to just assuming everything's going to be okay. The last trip, it's going to be like the last trip. I'm going to go and nothing's going to happen. And you just keep doing that, and you just get into this routine of just not being prepared. And so I have more of a prepper mentality when it comes to that. And I've got a family to come home to.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I don't want to take any unnecessary risks. And those are always things to consider when you go out there. Have fun, but like I said, be smart about it.
Yeah, I guess it's easy to get complacent too. Yeah, you do it for 10 years, 15 years. Nothing's ever happened to me. I'm fine. But that's when something's going to happen, and you can be like, shit, I didn't bring my life preserver. I didn't bring a weapon, or I didn't bring this. I didn't bring my first aid. I've never had to use my first aid kit, so I left it out of my pack this time. That's when you're going to need it. So it's, better safe than sorry. Better be prepared, and just have that respect for the woods.
For sure.
Yeah. All right, man. This was great. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. And, thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
And I'm going to get you on again, because we have more to talk about.
Oh, for sure.
I want to get you and Dustin on. I want to get you and Scott on. See if I can get Dan on. I don't know if he's got any cool stories. I got to talk to him. But
Dan he'll love coming on. But like I said, I haven't really talked to Dan about anything like that. So but it'll be interesting. Yeah, maybe we could reach out to him, see if he wants to come on sometime.
Yeah, but definitely. I want you as a somewhat freaking guest on the show if you're up for it.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Yeah.
All right. Because even if it's not about our experiences, we just, shoot the breeze about other paranormal stuff, and just because you have so many interesting thoughts, dude. Like, you just have a very different, unique sort of perspective on things. And I always enjoy our chats around the fire.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You just always bring up really good perspectives that you don't see out there too often. And I really appreciate that. I'd love to just pick your brain some more.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Yeah. And the feeling's mutual. It's great speaking with you, and, you have a real humble way about how you approach things, and very open-minded, and, critical eye for things. And it's always a good conversation, and always a good, good sense of reasoning when we talk about things. So I really appreciate that kind of intellectual, logical approach that you have. And, that's always a good thing.
Yeah, same here, man. It's whether it's, like I said, paranormal or politics or relationships or the job or, whatever we're talking about. Like, we just, we always have good combos, man.
Absolutely.
All right. So thanks everybody for listening. Be sure to check out Josh's channel, Diaz Wilderness Adventures. He's got some awesome videos on there. Some of his solo camping, some of our adventures together, some videos of him and his kids going camping, just really cool stuff. Tune in next week. We'll be back again next Tuesday. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe. And if you want to be on the show and tell us your story, Jason at oddanduntold.com. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.